my friends, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell by the title of today's video, we will be here ranking all of the Kindle Unlimited romances or books that I read last year. I didn't read a ton of Kindle Unlimited romances. I didn't read a ton in general last year, but I definitely had a lack of Kindle Unlimited romances. Maybe 15 or 20 to go over. Now I'm going to be completely honest, some of these I don't remember at all. And I'm not going to try to sell you them, because if I don't remember them, then they're gonna go in the C or D category, so they're not memorable. Do we need to remember them? Okay, so these are not in any particular order. I'm gonna try to go in the order that I think I read them, and let's just do it. So first up, I think the first thing I read in the year was The Flame King's Captive. This is written by the pen name of Brianna Hale. It's a dark fantasy romance. I don't remember much of it aside from her escaping and ending up in the king's kingdom. I remember it being very sex heavy and not a lot of fantasy world building. I would rate this at a C. I don't necessarily think it's a bad book. Romantasy, romance, fantasy, romance first sort of situation. I wouldn't say it's particularly dark. I do think it might be vampires or something like that. It's not my favorite. It's definitely not my favorite Brianna Hale across any of her pen names. I guess we can talk about Hate Me by A. Jade. This is a bully stepbrother romance. I have read some things by A. Jade that I adored and some things that I did not like. I don't really have too many memories of this. I couldn't even tell you the plot. I think their families get married and he bullies her because her mom got with his dad, I guess, if I remember correctly. This is part of a bully romance series that I didn't love by A. Jade, and this is also going to go in C. I don't remember anything particularly egregious happening in it that would put it in D, but I also don't remember it being very memorable. Sort of the same with Dark Knight Golden Dawn. This started out very strong. It's a fantasy romance, immortal society with marriages between powerful families, and the hero and the heroine had a childhood situation. They always had a thing for each other, and they are supposed to get married because they both come from powerful families. They get together pretty early on. The world building is not super fleshed out, so it wasn't my favorite read. I listened to the audiobook, and again, this is going to go in C. We'll talk about Heartless by Elsie Silver. I believe this is the second book in her Chestnut Springs series. I read the first one sometime last year, and I really liked it. I think I gave it a strong 4-star. These are just very swoony cowboy romances. This one is a single father romance. The heroine becomes the nanny. Contemporary romance, I'm finding, is not my favorite thing in the world, especially just regular contemporaries. But I think Elsie Silver has just something to her writing that is just so endearing. It's funny, it's sexy, there's always some great tension. So this is gonna be a B. I would say it's higher up on my list of contemporary romances. Continue to read Elsie Silver. I think the romance is particularly swoony. We can also talk about all of Anna Huang's books. These are Twisted Lies and Twisted Hate are from the same series, and then King of Wrath, I believe, is a new series. I, again, am not a huge contemporary fan. This series in general, and I think Anna Huang in general, is a pretty messy author. I think she has an idea of what she wants her characters to go through. Just does too much. It's she throws everything at the wall and everything sticks for her in her brain. I generally like the stories, but they're not my favorite. I would say Twisted Hate of these is good, but the others are not super memorable. This is an arranged marriage. I don't even remember what this one is. So I'm going to say that Twisted Lies and King of Wrath go in C, and then I'm going to put Twisted Hate in B. Not quite the same level as Heartless, but I think it's kind of, in my opinion, one of her best. It's like the least messy, and the hero, their relationship is fun, you know? There's like an influencer situation, and it's a good one. Not my favorite, again, but it's fine for what it is. So then we have King of Battle and Blood. I have read another novel by this author as well. I think I read their Persephone and Hades story. This is another romance fantasy series that is like very sexy, very steamy, set in like a fantasy world. It's a very mid book. It's a vampire situation, C tier. I think they're good if you want like a quick, accessible, fun time. All right, let's talk about Twilight of Embers, Midnight of Ashes, and Dawn of Flames. These are from the same series. I think Twilight of Embers is the first one, and then Midnight, and then Dawn, just based on the names. I think this is a shifter, like a dragon shifter romance trilogy. I read these all in one day. They were so fun. They were so, like, drama-filled. I believe it's a why choose. Plot is just absolutely unhinged, and the drama is ridiculous. Every book ends with a cliffhanger. They're all pretty short, and I had a really fun time with these. So I'm going to put them in B. That might be, like, controversial, because I think arguably some of these books down here are better, like, objectively, but this was a lot of fun, and I was like giggling and kicking my feet, and I wanted to know how the cliffhangers going to resolve themselves, and I just had a ton of fun. I will say, like, Dawn of Flames, if that is the third one, is more of a C tier book because it kind of just got old as far as the drama, but it was fun overall. Alright, so we'll talk about An Optimist's Guide to Heartbreak by Jennifer Hartman. This is another author that I have read from before. I read her most popular novel. I thought that one was okay. I was not a fan of this one. It's a, like, second chance childhood friends. It deals with grief and second chances and all of that. A woman returns to her hometown, and there's a bit of a beef, I guess, between her and her best friend's brother, who she's always been in love with. It's a 2-part series. I felt no need to continue at all. This was one of the most mid-contemporary romances that I have ever read in my life. I could not tell you a single detail, and the only reason that I remember all of the details that I have is because I filmed this video like midway through the year, so I vaguely remember the stuff that happened. But kind of like Hate Me, I think it's really just an okay novel. I would say Hate Me probably had a little bit more fun to it, because I didn't read that for a video, so I would have DNF'd that if I hated it. But it probably had a little bit more fun just because I'm a bully romance girly. Alright, so the only non-romance in this list is What Moves the Dead. I read this for my most recent horror video. I thought this was incredible. This is a very, very, very good Fall of the House of Usher retelling. T. Kingfisher, in my opinion, does horror and genre-bending novels very well. I loved how true to the original short story this stayed, while diving in and grounding the story a little bit more and making the characters and the horror feel a little bit more real. So this is gonna be our first A tier pick. Fate of Wrath and Flame, another romantasy thief who gets transported into a fae realm. Not much about this I liked. Not much about it I remember. So we're gonna put that there. Bewitched is about a witch who unlocks this, like, not a demon necessarily, spiritual entity thing. I actively hated this. It's really bad. Like, the writing is insufferable. The plot makes zero sense. The plot progression makes zero sense. I had no understanding of who the characters were. The hero was not in it for a majority of the time, and when he was just so annoying. So that is strongly in the D category. Pirate Girls by Penelope Douglas is the second book in her Hellbent series. It's a spin-off of the bully romance series. I really loved this. I think Penelope is in their soft boy, soft hero era, and I'm completely obsessed with this. This is basically like opposite sides of the tracks romance, and the heroine has to go live with the hero in their side of the town, and there's like a town rivalry going on. I was in love with both of the main characters, the hero and the heroine in this. Like I said, soft hero, kind of similar to the one in the first one, but with a lot more like baggage and a lot more going on. There's a bit of a love triangle situation where you don't really know what's happening, and it's just impeccable. So this is for sure an A-tier romance. Any romance that can like make my chest hurt from the angst is, in my opinion, a fantastic romance. So it has to go in A-tier. Heartless Hunter is a romantasy that is very similar to Serpent and Dove, whatever the YA witch hunter novel. I didn't like this as much as Serpent and Dove, but I think the banter between the characters was fun. The stakes, in my opinion, felt higher because the heroine is like covering up her identity not only from the hero but from like everybody, and I liked it. I would put it in a B tier. I would put it higher than all of these other ones because I do feel like the romance was fun and like tension filled, but it wasn't completely like as satisfying as I would have liked it to be. House of Bane and Blood is another romantasy that is Peaky Blinders-esque. There are people that don't have magic. There are people that do have magic. They have a bit of a rivalry between them. The hero, I believe, is supposed to be like Tommy Shelby. I freaking loved this. It reminded me of an adult version of like a Peaky Blinders Six of Crows situation. The city that they're in, the tension, the grit was great. The inclusion of the magic was fantastic. This world just felt fully fleshed out and real. The hero was a swoony guy. Like, if you like Tommy Shelby and Kaz Brecker, like, you'll love this one. It was excellently done, and I'm super excited to get to the second one. I really liked it. It's kind of an S tier. Is it an S tier? It's A tier. I gave it 5 stars, but at the time it was a 5-star. I don't necessarily know if it's 5 stars now, but it's excellent. Very good. Fine Print by Lauren Asher is C tier. I don't really feel like I need to explain what this is. Contemporary romance. I didn't love it. I think Lauren Asher's writing is incredibly normal, regular, nothing special going on up there, you know? And Best Laid Plans was a pretty regular contemporary romance. I think I settled on a 4-star for it. I did think that the relationship between the grumpy hero and the sunshine heroine was fun, and it did get a little bit emotional towards the end. It's basically rivals. He wants to sell a house, she's fixing it up, and there's a little bit of grief in there that I enjoyed. The tension between them was great, and I would put it in a B tier. It's like a step above a typical contemporary romance. It does have a little bit of that emotional element, and the resolution of their relationship was very satisfying. So that's a B tier. Anathema by Carrie Lake is a dark romantasy. The first half of this book was stunning. So good. The setup was amazing. We get to the 50% mark, and the middle bit between 50 and 75% was the biggest slog I have ever read. It's basically about a girl who lives on the human side of this like world that's divided by a portal, and to access it, like, you die if you go through the portal. She is ostracized. She's viewed as a witch because she was left and orphaned in this village, and she goes through the portal to save her sister, and she meets some fae, I think they are. It's very gory. It's very dark. And like I said, the the first 50% and the last little bit is great. It's really good. But the middle is a slog. So it's going to be a B tier. It's a good displaced heroine trying to save herself and her family. It has like some twists to it that are fun. The hero is not like particularly memorable, but the thought that has gone into this world and like how everything works and like the characters, I think is great. Curse of the Thorn King and Court of Blood and Bindings are both by the same author. Court of Blood and Bindings is a human in a fae world situation. She gets kidnapped by the hero. The hero is like big bad. He is an assassin for his mother, the queen. The heroine is a human with fae with like some powers, and he kidnaps her. And most of the novel is spent in his cabin, just kind of like building this tension between the two of them. She's learning how to use her powers, all of that. I think this is a very good fantasy romance for beginners. Like, I think if you really enjoyed, like, a Sarah J. Maas, you would like this. I tried to read the second one, and I think the second one pointed out to me a lot of flaws with this. I'm not able to, like, have the second one not color my experience with this. So I'm gonna have to put it in C. If you had just read the first one, I think it's like a 4-star B tier territory, like a low 4-star. And it's still 4-star on Goodreads for me, but it's kind of not. You know what? No. I'm gonna put it in B. I think it's good if you don't read beyond, because the second one is something else. The reason I'm doing that is because Curse of the Thorn King is a standalone. It's part of a series, but it's like it follows one couple. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I was not nearly as compelled by this one. It's a good standalone, but there's a lot there's a lot left to be desired, not only in the world building but also in the character work. I think a lot of it is spent like building the tension between the characters and not enough on other aspects of the story, including character motivations and all of that kind of stuff. Kind of on par with like King of Battle and Blood for me. The writing is way better, but the actual like result end of the story, like how it all comes together, is like a C. Okay, let's talk about Hurricane Wars. This is supposedly a Kylo Ren fan fiction. I don't know anything about Kylo Ren. The new Star Wars series, in my opinion, is really bad. So I don't have like any emotional attachment to them at all. This is Kylo Ren. They're from two opposite sides. He's Shadow, she's Light. She's the good guys. The time jumps in this were freaking weird. There wasn't enough attention showed to the hero to make their relationship believable. I think why people like, did I say Kylo Ren fanfiction? It's Reylo fanfiction. The people that like Kylo Ren, I think, are like inserting backstory into his story that make them like him. And I think a lot of this novel relied on people already having those notions about Kylo Ren and already feeling some type of way about him and already having this knowledge of the world going in. That is to be expected with fan fiction. But when you're reading a published novel, it's kind of hard to read if you don't already have the backstory. And that's why published novels need to be able to stand on their own. So I just don't feel like this stood on its own. I think the writing style is there, just needed some work. All right, The Veiled Kingdom. This is a fantasy romance, follows a woman who's a princess. Her father is a tyrant. She escapes. She ends up with the rebels. She has a romance with the leader of the rebels, or the son of the leader of the rebels. They have kind of a distrusting relationship. I think I finished this in one sitting. It was really not good. It felt like Divergent, but in a romance situation. She like has to train and stuff. There's very little work in anything but them just having run-ins with each other and like and trying not to bang. And King of Battle and Blood, I feel like had the same sort of vibe to it of like, I'm reading this, we know I'm reading this for the banging with like slight fantasy elements. This is not You know, it's just, it was D. You know, it was D. All right. Binding 13, I think, is the last, like, true contemporary on this list, so we'll talk about it. I'm doing a video reading the Boys of Tummen series. I went in with not the best expectations because of things that I had heard about from its original publication. Those things, thankfully, were fixed a little bit, kind of. But overall, this is not good. I think I gave this 2 stars. I was very conflicted reading this because the relationship itself is very sweet. It's very tender. It has a lot of angst and pining, a lot of pining. The hero is completely obsessed. But something that I could not get beyond is the raging misogyny in this. And it's from the hero. There is so much hatred for women in this that it's honestly shocking to me that anybody can like this. The heroine in his mind is just not like other women, and other women are hoes. And they're only with him because he's a sports rugby or some shit star, and they're only after him. They're all like dumb and promiscuous, and the heroine wears baggy clothes, so she is not like all the other women. And it was honestly really terrible to read, and it sucks because the romance, in my opinion, is so strong that this could have been B tier if those elements just didn't exist. Like it's just bad. Like, it's really, really bad. And I just can't move past it. I can't do it. Like, I see the people that are emotionally invested, who read it and cried, who love their relationship, because I do too. But how do I root for a hero that is so... Ugh. Let's just move on from that because... Alright, let's talk about Spookily Yours. This is a, like, Sabrina the Teenage Witch thing, except, like, she's an adult. She adopts a black cat from the shelter. He can talk. She helps him solve his problems. He ends up, like, being a demon. He turns back, and this was very okay. I feel like it could have been really good if they had a little bit more tension in the relationship. It's fairly short. However, they get together like 20% of the way through, and so the rest of it is just like them doing Halloween stuff together and like falling in love, which is not my favorite. I prefer a lot more angst. I prefer a much more of a slow burn. So, Mistletoe is my most recent and my last Kindle Unlimited read. Obviously, it's a Christmas novella. It's about a woman who has to save her father and his business from some cursed weapons. So she makes a deal with a demon who is a fox. She has to, like, pretend to be his mate for a week. They fall in love and bang a lot. It's like 55 pages. It's a C. I think it's very cute and it's sexy, and there's like a slight bit of a slow burn, not like too bad, but it's cute. The hero is a demon and he's very sweet and possessive, and it's fun. So it's a good little Christmas novella. First, we'll start with Quicksilver. This is another popular romance story, fantasy romance, whatever. This is about a woman who... I'm struggling to remember what this is about. She tries to run away, and while running away, she summons the hero from this, like, molten silver pool. He comes out, he takes her because she has access to the Quicksilver, and he needs her to be able to use her abilities to break this curse that he has on himself. Wow, I pulled all of that out of my ass. They have a delightful back and forth relationship. I would say it's more fantasy than romance. It's a strong start to a series for sure. There are just things about the story that I wish were more prevalent, more expounded on. For starters, her training her magic, I didn't feel like was as utilized as I would have liked, and just a little bit more understanding of the world. But I think it's super strong. I would say A. I think it's a really good, solid fantasy romance. It has like the best elements of a fantasy romance book. It just is lacking in some areas. So it's like a solid 4-star, definitely a series that I would continue, but there were just things that I wasn't like fully in love with. Let's go to my last two. So first up we have A Rivalry of Hearts. This is a fantasy, historical, comedy, romance thing. It's kind of like all of the genres. It follows a woman who's a human, and she gets a opportunity to be on a book tour in the Fey lands. And at the end of the book tour, whoever sells the most novels gets a publishing deal. And she ostensibly would stay in the Fey lands where her books are most popular. The hero is writing poetry. She's a romance author. The hero is writing poetry because he's trying to save his sister, like help her pay her tuition and all of that. He's not like completely in love with writing, but he's very good at it and he has tons of fans. He's very attractive and people love him. They strike up a deal. Whoever has the most kisses at midnight in their bedroom, like very specific terms, will win the whole thing. First of all, the hero is completely obsessed with the heroine. He kind of initiates this deal because he wants to like hook up with her. He's fascinated by her. He thinks she's so funny and witty, and he's just drawn into her. Like he can't stop thinking about her. The heroine finds the hero to be completely insufferable. She thinks he's so frustrating, and she's very annoyed by the fact that she finds him attractive. Regardless, she's not like the biggest fan of his personality, and so they bicker back and forth. This was so fucking good. This was so good. This is easily my favorite, like, historical romance fantasy situation. I've read quite a bit of them at this point, and this is impeccable. Like, if you want a hero that is just completely obsessed with the heroine and like drops all the hints and like is trying to like rile her up, this is for you. This is so good. It's so good. It's so cute, and I love their relationship. It gets very tender and intimate at a lot of moments that I really enjoyed, and it just is perfect. It's perfect, so it has to go an S. It has to. Like, there's no other option. And then lastly, we have When the Moon Hatched. This is fantasy romance. It's like 700 pages, and it follows a woman on quite an adventure. The world is very extensive. There is a pretty slow burn romance. Initially, the heroine is killing people to get by, and she gets kind of embroiled in the hero's reason for existing and like a lot of political stuff. It's incredible. It's incredible. It has this magical feeling to it. Like, no duh, it's a fantasy, it feels magical. But the minute I read the first page of this, like, I remember it so clearly. I was at an OBGYN appointment and sitting in the lobby, and usually, listen, my OBGYN takes like at least an hour. I usually sit there and just suffer the whole time, but genuinely, I did not feel a single second of it. I was completely engrossed by the story the whole time. It takes some very odd twists and turns. It does not have the typical, like, fantasy romance beats to the story. The romance is just so slow burn and amazing, and there's just this level of groundwork laid for the fantasy without giving too much away and without spoon feeding everything to the reader that I find completely delightful. There's just so much to this world for the reader to discover beyond what has been given to us in this first one. And it's not like the writer doesn't know, like they're just writing it up as they go. It's like the author trusts that the audience is intelligent enough to follow the story and to grasp what's going on without having to know every in and out of the story. It's incredibly well done. It like gave me the feelings of a Brandon Sanderson, where like I'm along for the ride, I'm loving every single second of it, and I trust this author to like get me where I need to go. These two right here are ones that I will reread, that I will love, that I hold in like the highest regard. And When the Moon Hatched, like, I understand why it's so popular. It's very, very good. But this is my rating. This is all of the Kindle Unlimited romances that I read this year. I didn't read a ton, and a lot of the ones that I did read, I can't remember for the life of me. So, but this is my rating. I would love to talk down below your thoughts on my ratings. What have you read from this list, and what would you put up there? What are your S tier Kindle Unlimited romances? That's what I really need to know, because while I do have a full Kindle Unlimited library that I need to get to, I'm always up for adding things to my list. So let me know down below. Let's talk. Let's chat. Let's gush about some romances. If you are looking for more content like this, please consider subscribing. I do a wide variety of video types, so maybe check out my backlist and find something that you enjoy. All of my social medias are linked down below if you're interested in finding me over there. My Goodreads, my Instagram, all of that stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.